So hello everyone, welcome to IT Career. So today we'll discuss Spring Annotations. Most commonly used annotation in day-to-day programming if you are working with annotation based configuration. So let's discuss. What is @bean? Why we are using @bean annotation? It is a method level annotation used to declare a Spring Bean that will return an object of a class that will be registered as a bean object by Spring. We are using @bean annotation in the configuration class to create object of a third party class or custom class. We are using @bean annotation on the top of method where we are creating object of third party class or custom class. What is @component? Why we are using @component annotation? It is a class level annotation used to denote a class as a component. It is used to mark a Java class as Spring Bean. @component annotation we are using on the top of Java class to mark as a Spring Bean. What is @repository? Why we are using @repository annotation? It is a class level annotation used to declare a Spring Bean. It is used to indicate that the class provides the mechanism for storage, create, update, retrieval, delete and search. Basically code operation on objects. We are using @repository on the top of DAO IMPL class, DAO implementation class, to mark that class as repository. What is @service? Why we are using @service annotation? It is a class level annotation. It indicates that a class is a business service packet. It is used with classes that provides some business functionalities. We are using @service annotation on the top of service IMPL class to mark that class has business logic. What is @controller? Why we are using @controller annotation? It is a class level annotation used to indicate that a particular class serves the role of a controller. It makes a class as a web request handler. If you are using @controller annotation on the top of any class, that will act as a request handler. What is @autowire? Why we are using @autowire annotation? @autowire annotation is used for dependency injection. It can be applied at field level, constructor level, setter method level and arbitrary method level. @autowire perform by type, by name, constructor mode of autowiring. We are using @autowire to perform dependency injection. We are using in the controller class to inject service class object. We are using @autowire in service class to inject DAO class object. If we are using @autowire annotation, it will perform dependency injection. It will take care from object creation to object destruction. We no need to create object manually. It will take care of everything. What is @qualifier? Why we are using @qualifier annotation? The qualifier annotation is used to differentiate a bean among the same type of bean object. It is used to avoid ambiguity problem. We are using @qualifier annotation to avoid ambiguity problem while creating a bean or while doing a dependency injection. What is @required? Why we are using @required annotation? It is a method level annotation used in the setter method of a bean property to make the setter injection compulsory. This annotation suggests that the required bean property must be injected with a value at the configuration time. We are using @required annotation to make setter injection compulsory, but it is deprecated now. What is @value? Why we are using @value annotation? It is applicable at the field level or method level or constructor parameter level. It is used to get the value from the properties file in a Spring or Spring Boot application. We are using @value annotation to read the properties or read the values from the properties. What is @primary? Why we are using @primary annotation? When there are multiple beans of the same data type, we can use @primary annotation that will give the higher preference to a particular bean. This annotation can be used on any class annotated with @component annotation or on methods annotated with @bean annotation. We are using @primary annotation to give higher preference to a particular bean. What is @scope? Why we are using @scope annotation? It is used to define the scope of a bean. The @scope annotation can be used in two ways: as a type level annotation with @component or as a method level annotation with @bean annotation. It can be either singleton, prototype, request, session and application. We are using @scope annotation to define the bean scope. We can use it on the top of class also, on the top of method also while creating a bean. To define the bean scope, we have four types of bean scope: singleton, prototype, request, session and application. By default, Spring Bean is a singleton scope. We can also use @scope value equal to configurable bean factory dot scope underscore property. Configurable bean factory is a class where all the bean scope constants are defined. So we can use like this also. What is @configuration? Why we are using @configuration annotation? It is a class level annotation used to indicate that a class declares one or more @bean methods. So a Spring container can process the class and generate a Spring Bean to be used in the application. @configuration annotation we are using on the top of configuration class. In that class we are creating multiple beans, we are doing configurations, we are performing configuration in the configuration class. What is @component scan? Why we are using @component scan annotation? It is a class level annotation used to create beans for classes annotated with the stereotype annotation: @component, @controller, service and repository, and configure them with bean factory. @component scan we can use with a stereotype annotation. What is @profile? Why we are using @profile annotation? @profile annotation used to create multiple configurations details for different environment like dev, QA, UAT, prod. In real time, every application has a different environment like dev, QA, UAT and prod. It indicates that a component is eligible for bean registration when one or more specified profiles are active. Bean will be ignored at runtime if the declared profiles don't match the active profile. We are basically @profile annotation we are using to configure the different environment. What is @import resource? Why we are using @import resource annotation? It is a class level annotation. It indicates one or more @configuration classes to import. By using @import annotation, we can load beans definitions from another configuration class, and that should be accessed by using @auto-wire injection. We are using @import to import different configuration class. We can use the features of that class in the current configuration class. So thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe IT Career for technical interview preparation.